Hey everybody, this is Perch. I want to talk about agendas in comics and activism in comics because I did a video a while back and what was it like? I don't know. I talked about ESGs for a while and that pissed everybody off. And then oh, that's right. The person writing in with the mail was a lunatic who basically said that they believe that comic shop or comic publishers were intentionally making good comics, like actual good quality comics, but only because they wanted to trick the readers. Basically, get the readers hooked on one or two issues of a good comic, only to pull the rug out from under them, and make the comic super gay. That was the person who wrote in basically. And you know what I just want to point this out to all of you, and this is fair as fair. And fucking a lot of people, not a lot of people, actually very, very few people are disingenuous when they say kind of what I think or my opinions when they regurgitate it. But if you listen to this channel enough, you know I am a fair is fair kind of guy to a fault. That's like what works for one person has to work for the other person. I may not agree with all of it, don't usually agree with all of it, but I do believe in consistency and fairness. That is me. So there, I was going over if I'm being fair, and a lot of you guys are not going to like what I'm about to say. Um, it is extremely true. If I do a video talking about a mail I received from somebody, some goofy person who wrote a night letter like Perch, you don't want to be considered one of the bad people. Like all of you guys are like applauding, like, yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, thank you for reading this mail. Those people are awful. Fuck that guy. And those people are creepy lunatics. These people who write night letters talking about, Perch, you don't want to find yourself on the wrong side of history. Those kinds of people. And I'm with you. Those people are annoying as hell. But when I read a mail from the other side, the person who's writing in with some goofy ass theory about how publishers are intentionally making comics just to screw people for no apparent reason, and it's clearly insane. The people writing those mails can say things like, fuck you and your kids, which some of them have done. Many of you come out of the woodwork and go, well, I don't know. Hang on. The guy may have a point. I mean, he may be a little frustrated. But I mean, aren't we all a little frustrated? I mean, sometimes we all get a little frustrated every now and then. Like, people bend over backwards to accommodate those people. Like, well, that they do not get, it's not fair as fair. They don't give the same consideration to the other side. It's like, yeah, but maybe hang on, maybe that person's not even a real person. Maybe it's an op. Come on, are you listening to yourselves? Come on, be honest, right? Right? We gotta be honest with this stuff. Anyway, um, in that mail, I mentioned, that agenda is absurd, and it is. It is an absurd. Their publishers not sitting around going, aha, this is how we're gonna fuck people. We're gonna put a really awesome creative team and tell a great story, and then we're gonna make everybody super gay, and they'll be tricked. I tell you. That is a dumb idea. It's not an agenda. It's not happening. That doesn't mean there is no agenda in comics. And by nature, the word is the trap, because everything in life is an agenda. I have an agenda to get home in one piece and not, crash my car. I have an agenda to drive by the Arby's and not stop there because I don't want to have diarrhea for the next 24 hours. There's lots of, you can have lots of agendas. So just putting it out there, I think we all know what people mean when they say agenda. But, you can morph and muddle the word agenda to fit whatever the hell you're doing on any given minute. I have an agenda not to get fired at work. I have an agenda to get promoted at work. I have an agenda to, fuck off in the middle of the day while I'm supposed to be working and buy comic books. Lots of things are going on. So there is definitely an agenda in comics if you take it down to that kind of homogenized level. The thing that there's not a scenario where a bunch of editors sit around a table and go, hey, let's move, half of the company's money, tens of millions of dollars. Let's move in an attempt to piss off Comicsgate. That's not executing itself in publishing plans. It's not. It doesn't mean that there aren't agendas at play. It does not mean, for example, well, let me say it a different way. 100% guaranteed. You're hearing it from here. So we're like, Perch finally is admitting the truth. Oh, fuck off that person. There 100% are editors who will go, I'm going to hire this person, this, whatever it happens to be, this friend I have, this person I met on Twitter, whatever. I'm going to hire this person because this person is going to piss off the conservatives. Okay. Yes, that absolutely has happened. Guarantee. And how do I know it's happened? Because I've sat and had drinks at the gas lamp at San Diego Comic Con and heard editors doing this. Yes, it for sure happens. Now, those agendas are never, ever successful. There's not a world where, that we hire somebody to piss off the conservatives and a good comic gets vomited out the other end. That's not how it ever works. But yes, those little geeves and those little dumb things do happen. Is it a company-wide strategy? No, it is not. It is not a company-wide strategy, and there's a couple reasons for this. First of all, number one, like these people can coordinate with each other. Are you fucking kidding me? That's problem number one. Number two, if you look at the actual output to these comics, despite the fact that people will say that every single Marvel comic is woke trash and everything else, they're not. There's several comics being published that, are dodgy as fuck. There's several that are just boring. There's several that are clearly just cash grabs into something else. And there's some comics that are good. There's a potpourri of comics that are out there doing different things. And many people will say, oh, I like Jed McKay's Moon Knight. Guess what? Moon Knight is published by Marvel. Jed McKay is not sitting there sneaking comics out the door. Like, I know the agenda of Marvel is to absolutely fuck with the conservatives on every opportunity. And so therefore every comic has to be woke trash. But I figure out a way to sneak this comic into the printers when they don't realize it and they won't know. Also, Jed McKay does not possess pictures of Akira Yoshida, taking it from some sumo wrestler over in Japan that he's using as blackmail. The company, by and large, their agenda is to basically put out comics, get their, meager paycheck, and live to see another day. That is the number one agenda. And then on an individual level, lots of people play stupid games from time to time. But I will point out that the editors who last, that the editors who hang in from, year after year after year, tend to be the ones who do not pull those stupid pranks or those stunts or those agendas. Now, that doesn't mean great comics are coming out the other end. I mean, Nick Lowe is certainly still hanging in there at Marvel. Jordan White has hung in there at Marvel for a long-ass time. And part of the reason why Jordan White has hung in there is because he oversees comics that, by and large, have put up numbers on the board. And yes, Jordan White has certainly, hired Vita Ayala and Danny Lore and Charlie Jane Andrews and others who are more, quote unquote, activist writers based on what they put on Twitter and what they put in their comic pages, has certainly done that. But that is clearly not an all-encompassing agenda, because you do not see Jordan White putting all three people on books simultaneously. In fact, usually there's one slot open at a time. No pun intended. That's just sound gross. But, you do not see Vita Ayala, as the new writer of the Uncanny X-Men. You do not see Danny Lore as the writer for, the X-Force book. You don't see, Stephanie Phillips on Wolverine. You will see these people come and go. But if there was truly an agenda at play at that level, you would see all the books. You'd see Mags Visaggio's, Avengers. That's what you would see. But the reality is, Mags is a pain in the ass to work with, and the editors know this. That's why Mags was blacklisted for a long period of time, and that's what happens. That's how that's ultimately how books get done. So it's a combination of things. It is not just one agenda everywhere, but there are lots of little micro agendas that take place all the time. And in a normal functioning world, you'd have a strong editorial team that would make sure that those agendas, if they do play out, are net beneficial and not net harmful to sales. But, you don't see that because, quite frankly, a lot of people are not watching, what's going on much at all. I say whatever you want about him, and good or bad, and I guess what I'm about to say is bad. Do you think Tom Brevoort has a really clear understanding of all the books that are going out? Do you think C.B. Cebulski has a good understanding of all the books. Which do you think C.B. Cebulski has a better? This is going to be really cruel what I'm about to say, but do you think he has a better understanding of what's on the menu at his local Thai restaurant, or the books that Marvel's actually publishing every month? You know, I'm just going to guess that Green Curry is winning that fight. So, is that an agenda? No, it's more just stupidity. It's more just, taking your eye off the ball, not paying attention to what's going on. Certainly those things. But again, that doesn't mean that agendas aren't taking place in the office. There are people who get into Marvel and say, my goal is to, make more characters trans. That's my agenda. And they get into Marvel and they do exactly that. They introduce a, trans mutant and everything else. They feel very proud of themselves. They go on Twitter and like, there's a trans person. Like there's a character that was created during Lazarus Planet that had, trans op scars as part of the costume. And Twitter threw a little parade for this character. Here's a bold prediction. 3 years from now, that character will be nowhere to be seen in any of the comics. Why? Because nobody will give a shit. It won't move books. None of the people who are throwing parades and getting really excited about it are going to actually show up to the shop to buy those books. And so it's going to disappear. And there will be a new writer who is bringing out a new trans character in the comics like, look what I have done. I am brave. And the cycle will repeat over and over and over. So don't get me wrong. There are agendas that play out in comics, for sure. But the agendas are often a bunch of smaller, individual, unique agendas, as opposed to one big company agenda. I'm going to throw this out, which may break your mind further. I wish there was a big company agenda in play, even if it was one I didn't agree with, because I think the action of being coordinated and putting stuff out would be healthy, even if that coordinated attempt, which sounds crazy. And look, I'm saying this in the abstract. I don't actually want bad things to happen. I don't want there to be some crazy, creepy communist social agenda in comics. Of course I don't. But we have to recognize that a lot of the stuff that's going on are individuals. And I'll throw one last thing out there because you may be thinking, you might go, aha, but who's hiring those individuals? You're right. The full-time employees, the editor-in-chief, they're hiring these people in who have agendas. Shouldn't they stop that? Yeah. Are they stopping it? No. Does that mean that's an agenda in and of itself? Well, sort of. The agenda is, how can I get this book done for as cheap as possible? That's the agenda, which is a pretty fucking terrible agenda if you think about it. And it certainly doesn't relate to quality, but that's where we are. So that's my perspective on it. Now, one more thing. If you disagree, cool. I'm not going to sit here and call you a dumbass, even if you might be one. And you're welcome to think whatever you like, just like I'm welcome to think whatever I like. That's this amazing thing called freedom of thought. That's where we're at. That's what I believe is going on with comics. Again, your mileage may vary, and more power to you if it does. But this is what I believe from my observations in the comic industry and all the people I've talked to and met. You feel differently? Cool. You're welcome to it. This is a viewpoint of one and only one, me. Thanks for listening.